The views expressed on the Jerry Cahill CF podcast are that of Jerry Cahill and guests, and not necessarily those of the Boomer Esiason Foundation. Nothing on the Jerry Cahill CF podcast should be considered medical advice. Such advice can only be given by a physician who is experienced with cystic fibrosis. The Boomer Esiason Foundation, Jerry Cahill and guests cannot be held responsible for any damage which may result from using the information on this podcast without the permission of your medical doctor. You're listening to the Jerry Cahill CF podcast presented by the Boomer Esiason Foundation and jerrycahill.com.
Welcome to Jerry Cahill's CF Unmasked podcast series. In a world where everyone wears a mask, it's nice to see a soul. This show, CF Hardships After the Second Transplant, has been made possible with financial support from Mylan to the Boomer Esiason Foundation. Today you will meet Lindsay Briggs, 34 years old, born and raised in Carver, Massachusetts. Lindsay is the oldest of 4 children. Her sister Bea passed away at 29 in 2017 due to complications from CF. Lindsay also has a sister Emily, 30, and a brother Harry, 27. Lindsay studied communications and journalism at Stonehill College in Easton, Massachusetts, and was a local town reporter for a few years out of college. Lindsay went back to college to get her teaching license and currently working at her alma mater, Sacred Heart High School in Kingston, Massachusetts. Lindsay loves being back and part of the community and states, "I am a lifer there."
My name is Lindsay Briggs. I'm 34 years old and I was diagnosed with CF at birth. I have 3 younger siblings. I am the oldest of 4. My first sibling is Ashley. We call her B. She passed away, unfortunately, from complications of cystic fibrosis at the age of 29. My second sister, Emily, is 30, and my younger brother, Mackenzie, who we call Harry, is 27. Growing up with CF, I lived a completely normal life. I wasn't really sick until I was about 13, so I did everything that I wanted to do. I played softball, I played volleyball, up until high school. I continued those until my senior year. I went to school at Sacred Heart in Kingston. I started there in kindergarten. I went there K through 12, what is known as a lifer. And then after a brief stint as a reporter, I got my teaching license and started there at Sacred Heart to continue my lifer status, I guess you'd say, as a high school English teacher and journalism teacher. My sister B she was asymptomatic her whole life. I was the one that was the sicker one. I was the one that had to go through routine cleanouts and longer antibiotic stints, and she would go to the gym and work out, and she played volleyball constantly. We don't know if she got a bug or what happened, but she woke up and she was just having a hard time breathing. And my mom took her to the emergency room in Plymouth, and they sent her to Boston. And she went to Children's, and there she was put on tons of antibiotics, and she was intubated, and they thought they had her coming out, and then they put her under she had what is called ICU delirium. They thought they let her sleep and pull her out of it, and she just wouldn't wake up. So she went down pretty quick, and they couldn't bring her back to get her on a transplant list, let alone get her transplanted. In regards to end-stage CF, my doctor had told my parents that I would need a transplant by the age of 22. He had told us that a couple of years before, and when I turned 22, I needed a transplant. While I was getting sicker, it wasn't a good time for me. I would get more depressed. I would kind of withdraw from family and friends. They were always around or somehow found a way to eke their way back in. So I always had a good support system that helped me through those times where I was depressed or just couldn't get out of my own way. There's a lot of time that gets spent to CF. For example, if I want to do my medicines, I set them out a month at a time. That takes a good 3 hours to get all my medicine Sunday to Saturday. All the testing for any stage of a CF. I might say I have a doctor's appointment to a friend, but they don't know that it's a a blood gas, which kills. And they just know it's a doctor's appointment. They might know that I have to do a 6-minute walk, but to them, 6-minute walk is nothing. But to me, as I'm carrying an oxygen tank or as I'm trying to dredge up 6 minutes to walk, is a feat of strength that I have to bring upon myself. I just didn't know if I would live. During those times of dark, deep depression, I didn't know if I would be around to see the next Christmas, to see the next birthday, to see one of my cousins go to get her learner's permit. I didn't know those things were going to happen, and transplant made those things happen. When the call came for the first transplant, I was not awake. I was unconscious and under a medicated coma, I guess you'd say. My mom got the call on February 28th. I went under. I had to go back in shortly on February 29th because they found a bleed on one of the lungs, so I had to go back in the 29th, and then I came back out. The first thing I remember is waking up, and my mom said all I could say was I could breathe because I had nothing stopping me, no oxygen, nothing that I needed to breathe except for my own lungs, my new lungs. For the first transplant, I was on tacrolimus, or Prograf as it's known, and I'm on that as well for my second transplant. In addition to that is my Fortic. Tacrolimus is a medicine that's an anti-rejection medicine that I take so that my lungs aren't rejected from my body. My first transplant, I did think about the donor every day. I did write to their family. I didn't hear back, which, when talking with my coordinator and my doctors, that's not unusual. And I completely understand. I mean, they're going through a different kind of heartache. And on the other side, I'm happy that I got a set of lungs, but on the other side, somebody had to die for me to live. Post-transplant, there's a lot you have to deal with. You're not just free and clear and can go on your merry way. For me, for my second transplant, it meant a lot of rehab. I've been in 3 rehab hospitals, and I'm still using a walker right now and a wheelchair. There's a whole lot of trading one set of problems for another when you do transplant. After my second transplant, especially now, because it's flu season, I guess you stay inside more. I'll stay at my house more than I'll go out. I miss seeing people, family events, cousins that maybe have the cold, so they can't come, or I won't go there, so we both miss out. I don't go to big crowds, rarely as much as I used to. We'll go to an occasional baseball game, not as many as we used to. It's very isolating. So I can stay healthy. With 2 transplants, the second transplant is definitely harder than the first one. I'm definitely not anywhere near the capacity or the physicality that I want to be at. But I'm working at it every day. I have OT, PT. This time around it's different because I'm on dialysis. I wasn't on that the first time around, which is it takes a lot out of you. I don't know if it's me, it's just for the mental toughness and the grit to stay alive or whatever it is. But I put it to my mom and my aunt, because they were always like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, or there's just one more corner we have to get by to get straight away, and you'll get on that straightaway and you'll do much better. And for some reason, for me, it was always 2 steps forward, 8 steps back. Both transplants, I'd say they were worth it. I like to see my cousins and watch my cousins grow up, and we're just a big family-oriented people, I guess you'd say. So it's fun to watch everybody grow up around me.
And if your donors were here right now, what would you like to say to them?
Geez. Besides an immense thank you, losing my sister, I know how they felt losing somebody they loved, and I don't know how they did it.